This is from Justin to Kane, a podcast where Mike Robertson and Bob LaRue watch one critically acclaimed film and one terrible film and talk about how they are the same. But anyways, it was fucking gross. It smelled so bad. You probably haven't smelled rotting flesh in a while, but it is not pleasant.
I haven't, no.
Like moldy chicken breast is like on another level.
No thanks.
It's a cautionary tale for everyone. Plug your fridge back in after you fucking do a podcast recording before you fly to Vancouver for 5 days.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get this puppy started or whatever.
Let's take this dog for a walk.
Yeah.
That's what we should say. Hey, let's take this dog for a walk.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then we
okay.
record the podcast just because it's a canine theme.
Always searching for the new canine themed catchphrase.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. This is from Justin and Kane, but you know that because you freaking clicked on this shit and you're listening to it. But
Yeah,
I'm Bob.
I'm Mike.
This week, I always say this and I always mean it. This week is a doozy. Let me tell you. What are the two movies, Mike?
So the two movies are Big, directed by Penny Marshall, which came out in 1989?
1988.
1988.
Yeah.
And the first Neil Breen movie we've talked about on this podcast. It's been a while.
But it's not his first movie.
It's not his first movie, no, but it's the first one that we've watched and talked about. Is this your first Breen, Bob?
I've never breened. What's it called? Oh man, there's a joke in there. Fuck. I don't know what it is, but I want to find it. Like when you make a brine or you're brining something, you could be breening.
Yeah.
Filled to the breen. I don't know. There's something there. I'll work on it.
Yeah, so this is our first Breen. It's Fateful Findings from 2013, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like it's from 2002 though.
It looks like it's from 2002.
Like the cars and the phones and the hair. It's wild.
The technology is for sure from like a completely other decade, which is maybe why the movie's so good, because the technology is timeless in a way and that it's outdated from the time that it was even made.
It felt like, and I don't mean this in terms of quality, but in terms of purely the technology side of things, it felt like I was watching the pilot to Sopranos.
Wow, that's a compliment.
No, I mean purely in terms of technology on screen.
Oh, right.
That is super dated.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The technology, I didn't even kind of realize that. I mean, there's a first similarity between the two movies is that the technology is from a different era in both movies.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Dare I say, both films look and sound and feel like they're from 1988.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Neil Breen films on prosumer cameras, or at least he used to.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He uses prosumer cameras when he's not using just still image backgrounds in front of a green screen, or when he's not using stock footage backgrounds.
What do you know about this guy? What's his fucking deal?
Well, I mean, I can get into. We can get into it. Let's get into it.
Let's take this puppy for a walk. How about?
I feel like this is going to be one of those podcast episodes where we just talk about one movie specifically for most of the thing, and then the other one kind of just gets a bit of a shrift. So
you know what? I will say, Big doesn't need more love.
No, I guess it doesn't need more love.
Big is a heralded classic. It's an Oscar-nominated film.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It's a Golden Globe winning film. So fuck, it doesn't need any love.
What did it win?
Neil Breen.
What was it nominated for an Oscar for?
Best screenplay and best actor.
For Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
What, really?
And guess what? He won Best Actor for a comedy or musical at the Golden Globes that year.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts? Yeah, for such a shifty movie that's about nothing in a lot of ways, it did really well in awards season.
Yeah, that is kind of
And guess what? Guess who he lost to for the Oscar for Best Actor?
I don't remember.
Dustin Hoffman for Rain Man.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Which we should maybe do for the podcast?
Maybe, yeah.
It seems like
we kind of did when we talked about the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was famously written by the Rain Man writer and wanted to basically just make Rain Man with the Super Mario Brothers. I almost said Rayman, which is a video game, but nope, which is a Super Mario Brothers-esque game actually. So maybe that's a Freudian slip, if somehow. I don't know how, but anyway, let's Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's go to the dog park.
Sure, we'll go to the dog park. Yeah. Woof, woof. So,
Hey, how about, you know what? Let's go off leash for a minute here.
yeah, we're going to just go off leash. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
When we say things that are a little bit scandalous, we're going off leash.
That's right.
Let's see. Fateful Findings came out in 2013. The poster describes it as a paranormal thriller where a computer hacker exposes worldwide secrets. And that is not an incorrect assessment of the film.
It's also not right.
No,
in a lot of ways.
It doesn't really do anything, but
well, real quick, I read that and then I watched it and I was like, when does the conspiracy part come in? And it's literally in the last 8 minutes.
yes.
Wild.
So if you've never seen a Neil Breen film, he is like Tommy Wiseau adjacent. So he basically is one of those kind of random dudes who isn't, the most Brad Pitt-esque in terms of handsomeness. Kind of writing.
But Tommy Wiseau's hotter.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau is more of a looker, than Neil Breen.
And a better butt, for sure.
Got a better butt, for sure, yeah.
Neil Breen's bottom is flat.
It's pretty flat. So, so Neil directs, writes, produces, edits his movies, and he's also in charge of production design, set decoration, makeup, sound editing, catering, casting, props, you name it. Special effects, I'm sure.
Locations, PA. He's also
PA.
taking out the trash at the end of the day.
Well, I visited his Twitter account today, and he's making a movie as we speak.
Oh, wow.
He's working on his 6th feature film. And he was looking for locations on Twitter. So he's like, hey, does anybody have a hospital and this other thing? So his next movie features a hospital and a mansion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about hustle. That guy's got hustle for days.
He's got hustle for sure.
Good for him.
So yeah, he does pretty much all of the jobs on the movie, short of shooting them and, I don't know, lighting them probably, and being the other people in the movie, because he can only be one person. Although he did make a movie recently where he plays an evil version of himself. So he plays like himself and his brother. Twisted Pair.
Oh, that's fun.
So he made a movie called Twisted Pair where he plays himself and his brother has like a clearly kind of theater props kind of mustache and beard. And it's like, ooh, I gotta see this. This looks really good.
Oh man. Talk about gold. That guy makes nothing but fucking gold.
Oh, I know, yeah. So in the credits for the movie, he lists a bunch of fake companies in the credits. Did you watch the credits?
I did.
Yeah, so he lists a bunch of fake companies in the credits, and then at the very end, there's a little twist where he reveals that the credits that had the letter N or B in it, Neil Breen, those were just fake, and that it was him doing that job. So he makes up these company names, and then he just is like, no, it was me. So he doesn't even like just try and pull the wool over your eyes. He just spoils his own like little surprise.
But he does it in the same moment that you're like, oh, wow, look at all the people involved in this. And
yes,
then he's
exactly.
Like, just kidding. It was all me.
Yeah, which I think on some level he thinks is impressive. And I guess it is, really. He's not wrong, but...
Well...
Because catering and directing and starring and writing and producing, just doing all of the things is like... Catering is like a huge job.
I'll bet fucking money.
Mm-hmm.
3 meals a day, just fucking hard-boiled eggs in Ziploc bags.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, you're right.
I guarantee it. And pizza.
This
Those
is based
are the
on your
two
own
things.
experience.
I've been on these shoots. I haven't worked with Neil Breen, and I hope I never do. But
you can.
I've come pretty damn close. I've worked on some real trash.
Yeah.
And I know what it feels like.
And you've been fed with hard-boiled eggs in Ziploc bags?
Yeah. Didn't I send you a photo?
You did, yeah.
Yeah. You know I did it.
That's twisted.
And the director was in charge of the catering, literally.
Well,
so I've been in this exact situation.
That's beautiful.
No, it's not. It's horrifying. It's hell. It's a hellscape.
So, Fateful Findings was declared one of the worst films ever made upon its release, and immediately gained a cult following after it came out. And that is because this is his 3rd movie. So, after he had made 2 other movies, he had kind of already started the ball rolling on kind of creating a cult status as an outsider artist.
Mm-hmm.
this movie kind of delivered on the promises set forth by his original two movies. So, yeah, a lot of people were really excited when this movie came out, to the point that he got into film festivals by invite.
What?
So like film festivals, yeah. So film festivals who are kind of riding the Room wave of, because like 10 years after The Room came out, 2013-ish is when this movie came out. So people were looking for the next Room by then, because it took about 10 years for The Room to really be what it is. Like I think I saw The Room in like 2010 or something like that, 2011. So yeah, so I think, yeah, he was already kind of famous a little bit in cult circles, and so got invited to some pretty big film festivals because of the cult appeal. And he did submit to things, and people were like, "Oh, we got to show this," even though it's the worst thing at our festival. But
well, it's like a circus like attraction. Like it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Right? You just want to see something scary and freaky.
Yeah, he goes to film festivals all over the world and sells out theaters of like thousands of people, because the movies are so good that they're bad, or so bad that they're good. Or depending on your opinion, I guess either could be true.
Yep. What an off-leash statement you just made. Wow.
Yes. Well, here's another off-leash statement. So the writer Nathan Rabin, who has written some film books, he used to be the AV Club's head editor guy. He calls Fateful Findings unconventional and as unpredictable as Citizen Kane, which is in many ways not wrong.
I don't think that's true at all.
Well, it is unconventional, and it is surprising. Like, you never know what's coming next.
That's true, but he's implying, he's conflating the two films, or the things that make the two films interesting are not the same thing. Like,
no,
the twists and turns of Citizen Kane are so interesting because it's all like a retrospective story.
Yes, and also the technical aspects as well of Citizen Kane. That's why people think it's so great.
Right.
Whereas this one has no technical aspects to speak of.
I will say, though, it's super technical in just per capita how many computers are on screen at any one time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But anyways, I think he's conflating like two things that should really be dealt with separately. To say something like that feels very just wanting to like grab some attention, clickbait kind of bullshit. 100%. You know what I mean? That's I'll find that guy, punch him in the face. I think that's BS.
I'm not going to back up that statement. I'm just going to just say it because I read it. That's what I don't agree with it necessarily. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying that's what somebody said about this film.
Yeah,
and he's a well-respected writer too.
The film does end with the sled on fire as well, right?
It does,
Breen's sled is on fire, and he's like, "Oh no, all the government agency secrets were on the sled, and now it's burning."
Yes.
The amount of suicide in the film.
I love it.
It's so funny.
It's kind of hard to. So this one gets the from Justin to Kane like stamp of approval in terms of like you gotta see it to believe it in many ways.
Yes,
because we can describe it, and it is funny that podcasts are an audio medium, but a lot of them deal with movies.
Yes.
And this is one of those movies you just gotta see it to believe it, because the aesthetics are very particular and the dramatic choices are all over the place.
I will say this has a very sort of immediate shared DNA with David Lynch.
Yes, you did say that, yeah.
I will say this, and I know you're probably going to disagree. If David Lynch put his name on this film, no one would bat an eye.
No.
Because he's made a lot of deliberate, poor choices to, like, make his sort of surrealist statement. Mm-hmm. And he sort of employs bad filmmaking to try to, like, convey an idea or an artistic expression.
Interesting.
But this film was trying to be good. That's where it diverges, but like aesthetically, tonally, musically, very much it feels like Inland Empire or like some of his shorts in the mid-aughts, like where he's shooting on DV tape and it's like, what the fuck is going on? And he's employing like Oscar-nominated actors who are being bad on purpose. Very much feels like that. Or as I texted you, it feels like a David Lynch fuck you movie, which is everything except for Elephant Man.
Yes. Yeah.
And Dune.
It's like it's inadvertently surreal. Like, it didn't mean to be surreal, but it
is.
The choices that they made just ended up being kind of surreal. It's wild.
It's surreal.
Yeah, totally.
Like, as a viewer, you're like, I can't believe this is real. This exists.
I know. You're like, I can't believe I'm watching this movie. So a little bit about Neil Breen himself. He kind of maintains a little bit of anonymity about his personal life because, as I read in an interview, he says you don't know what's going on with like identity issues and stuff. So I think his conspiracy theory kind of minded characters are probably close to his own views, I would say. A
real reflection of who he actually is.
Yeah, and I mean, he's not wrong in that there's like government corruption and insurance, company scandals and all this stuff. Like whatever he was kind of ranting about at the end of the movie, he's probably not wrong, but definitely kind of has a childish outlook on how the world works, which is another similarity with Big.
That's right.
Neil Breen is an adult who has a childish kind of outlook on the world.
Well, there maybe I can like jump on that. It's more, it's like less childish. It's more like there's an ignorance that they both have, and they don't like. Oh shit, I don't know. It's like it's not well articulated in either film that there's this sort of like ignorant perspective, but then they also they benefit from it.
Oh, 100%.
Like he benefits, and also Tom Hanks's character, because he's so childish and ignorant and doesn't know anything. Everyone finds him refreshing and loves him. And sort of Neil Breen's character is treated the exact same way.
He's kind of treated as a savior character despite his like stupid views on the world.
Yeah. Well, and both films show the character as a kid and as an adult.
That's true. Yeah, they transition from childhood to adulthood within the first 10 minutes of both films.
Yeah.
So that's another similarity. Great. What we do know about Neil is he's a Las Vegas architect by day, and he was a real estate agent. He still might, although I think he's now a full-time filmmaker. But he famously used his saved money from his day job as an architect to fund his own films.
Mm-hmm.
He's defiant of the film's so good it's bad marketing hook. So when he did get a distributor for his film, he wanted to be in charge of the marketing and like, I guess, all aspects of the process as always. And yeah, he was like defiant when they were just trying to sell it as like, oh, it's so bad it's good, like a cult movie. He's like, no, it's not so bad it's good. It's like some people think it's good, some people think it's bad. So
he's not self-aware. He's delusional.
I think he is or was at some point, but I think it's an interesting thing where he's delusional to the point where he can make the movie because he thinks he's making great art. And then when the movie comes out and everybody is like, oh, this is a great, so bad it's good movie, he embraces that, but then he has fame now. And so that adds another layer of delusion to it where he is convinced he's making great films again instead of just being like, oh, I made a bad movie. Because I think also at a certain point, once he understands that he's making bad movies, then he figures out the formula of what makes a bad movie good, he will start jumping the shark with his next movie, and it'll just be too self-aware. Like Tommy Wiseau is already kind of in that space where he knows what's up now, and he's making stuff and appearing in things. Samurai Cop 2 also was like, they made a sequel to Samurai Cop, and it's like, it's aware of how bad the first one is.
Yeah. I guess, well, like you and I have said this before on the podcast, but it has to have genuine intent for it to work as a so bad it's good.
Yeah.
If it's so bad on purpose, it's not so good. It's just like, oh, you're phoning it in on the things that you think people will like because it's sort of an irony or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the genuineness that is why people want to watch it. It's interesting when people sell out, but there's also something weird where you reward filmmakers who are making garbage to then make more garbage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Neil Breen is a good example of somebody who's being rewarded to make terrible stuff.
Yeah, but thankfully he doesn't seem to fully understand it yet. And I have some quotes from the man that I will read later.
Oh,
that kind of delve into his psyche a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, just a couple of more things. I mean, this movie did remind me of when we watched Loquisha, that guy Jeremy Saville, who casts himself as the flawless hero and did like all the jobs on set. And it was kind of like an ego boosting movie in a way. Like there's like an element of ego like throughout the entire film. And he just like makes a movie. He has no concept of how bad it is. Plus also his personal politics really fit into it. So yeah, it's kind of really reminded me of LaQuisha and Jeremy Saville, although, obviously not far and away not as racist as Jeremy Saville's film. So
no, but both films, or no, not really, I guess, LaQuisha, but a lot of these guys write and center themselves in films where they have to make out or have sex with more than one female co-star.
Yes, which
is always kind of this dicey thing.
Yeah.
Maybe a similarity is there's unnecessary romance in both films.
Unnecessary romance, yeah, with an age gap, it's a huge age gap.
Yeah, it seems excessive. Yeah, there is a huge age gap because the women he's with are clearly in their 20s.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes both films have pedo vibes, which is, very true.
Yeah, honestly, it's spot on. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Because, big, obviously, a big thing about the movie that hasn't aged well at all. And weird that it was fine in the 80s, I guess. Nobody blinked an eye at this.
Yeah.
But, Tom Hanks' character becomes the titular big.
Mm-hmm.
He then gets a job at a toy company, and then one of his coworkers he becomes romantically involved with. But he's, like, still technically 13.
Yeah.
In his brain, at least, but his body is adult. So I don't know. There's like weird blurred lines there, but she fell in love with a 13-year-old Breen, I guess. So that is questionable. But then in Fateful Findings, like Neil Breen is making out with women who are clearly half his age. He must be in his 50s.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They're all in their 20s. And then there's also a teenager who he like watches kind of disrobe at a swimming pool and then in the shower and stuff. But then he's against it. He's just trying to tell her to not be horny for him.
Yeah. Well, and another shared trait with David Lynch, I was actually thinking, I was like, this would feel more like a David Lynch film if the nudity was even more overt, because he was sort of like, the nudity was still sort of hidden and suggested. It was like never just like full frontal or anything. It was always just like, oh, they're kind of naked, but kind of not. Whereas like Lynch is very much like, well, let's have a whole dialogue scene in a lodge with strobe lights and just people don't have shirts on.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's
what movie is this?
That's classic Lynch. Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie yet.
Oh, yeah, it's this super specific scene I'm describing that's like just unnecessary. They're all like doing drugs in the lodge, and the French Canadian guy's like there, and then like Laura Palmer's shirtless, and the other character. It doesn't matter. But anyways, classic Lynch, and they just have like a really long dialogue scene and do drugs, or like Blue Velvet, all that shit.
So you can buy Fateful Findings from Breen directly on his website, fatefulfindings.biz. And the website declares that when you order it, it will take 4 to 6 weeks to arrive, and it contains no subtitles and no artwork. So you're just going to get a blank DVD-R, and it's not even, you can't even buy it on Blu-ray. You can't get an HD version of it. You'll be paying like $30 to $40 for like just a DVD.
in a blank DVD case.
Yeah.
From like oh man, back when you could just get blank DVDs.
It was direct from the man himself.
Oh fuck, I love that. I love that he's like unabashedly just stating like there's no frills with this. You're getting the disc. It'll have a Sharpie on it saying Fateful Findings, DIR, Neil Breen.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, just in Sharpie. It's like,
it's
signed by him, sort of.
His films have been described as Christian cinema adjacent because they aren't like explicitly religious, but there's like weird mysticism and kind of religious overtones in all of his films, supposedly, especially this one. And then also the production values are, low to mediocre. And then just the moralizing that is constantly happening in the film. Mm-hmm. And he recently came out with a 5-hour film in 2020, and it's not a documentary. He will constantly remind you of that, but it's basically a masterclass that he filmed of himself. Mm-hmm. So it's a 5-hour movie where he's sitting on his couch, just telling you about how his process works. And and it's like prohibitively expensive in the fact that it's like $120 US to buy it. So it's mainly geared towards film schools, in his opinion. So I don't know. On some level, he clearly doesn't get it because he's doing a master class. But then also very fascinating. I'm sure there are Neil Breen fans who bought it because they're like, I got to see what this guy's process is. Like, everyone wants to know more about this guy.
Well, like, even, like, what does the couch look like? Like, where the fuck did he shoot it, you know? Like, is it in his living room, or did he rent, like, an office foyer?
Oh, no, it's clearly in his living room. He has weird trinkets on the back. Like, he has weird kind of mystical of, you know, Native American, probably, like, stuff in the background, it looks like. I watched a 10-minute excerpt from it on Vimeo.
Oh, wow. I think, you know, a really great incentive for sales, you know, is the notion of morbid curiosity.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of what his entire career is built upon.
100%, yeah.
Especially like $120 masterclass, it's 5 hours.
Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's hardcore, man.
Yeah, but it's not a documentary. Don't you forget. Apparently, his shooting process is usually 22 days also. So he'll usually try and shoot everything in a month.
That's pretty good, because I was kind of looking at Fateful Findings, and I was like, you could do this in 5 days. Easy. 22 days. Man, they must be really chill days.
They must be pretty chill days, yeah, which is probably fun. To just work on the set. Come show up, have an argument about nothing. Have your character get shot for some reason, and then
eat some hard-boiled eggs and go home. You know what I mean?
Or make out with Neil Breen in the shower
with a nightie on.
Yeah.
And there's just blood everywhere.
Yeah, and he's wearing he's got like his head wrapped in a bandage, and he's still making out with somebody.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so surreal.
Here's a couple of quotes from the man himself, taken from various websites and publications. So, Fateful Findings, when that hit the festivals, they went crazy. Now the festival market people realized Neil Breen, spoken in third person, was not just someone doing one film then disappearing. This guy's for real. Next quote, what's common in my writing is a sense of entertainment, a sense of paranormal or mystical elements, and a sense of social commentary without being judgmental. In other words, I don't tell the audience, well, this is the right way and that's the wrong way. I want to plant a seed of thought in the audience without getting too heavy-handed. Which if you've watched the end of Fateful Findings, you're like, he clearly doesn't know what heavy-handed means, because he really explicit. I mean, I guess you don't really know what he's getting at.
No, he's like being vague and hyper-specific at the same time.
Yeah, he's
just using buzzwords.
Maybe I'll play a clip there just so people can hear it.
I think his monologue, but include all the gunshots, please.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm the governor, and yes, I was embezzling money or whatever. Bang.
I have discovered more information than any hacker ever has. Ever. What I have found will shock you. Here are the files and supporting documents and supporting truths, the factual documents. I'm releasing these files to the public today.
Money, payoffs, and greed were always the priority of my company, like many companies. I'm afraid of going to prison. They now know my crimes.
By releasing these files today will not endanger any innocent persons, but they will identify governments and corporations that have committed fraudulent and criminal activities against mankind. These people must be punished and eliminated immediately.
I resign today as president of the bank.
For their lying, their greed, their injustices.
We were all under pressure to operate in a deceiving way and cheat the customer. Goodbye.
they're all present for some reason at his like press conference.
Yeah.
And then all of the people, and then they all just kill themselves because they've been exposed.
Another sort of hyper Lynchian detail was that applause sound is like such a classic sort of sound that Lynch would use to like, you know, sort of give this sort of disturbing sort of surreal soundscape to a scene where there's no audience present. Like in that Rabbits film.
Yeah.
That's inside of Inland Empire. There's a lot of applause because it's supposed to be like a sitcom and whatever. And I just kept being like, this feels like fucking Inland Empire.
Yeah.
Oh, God. There's so many details that are so weird and Lynchian, but unintentionally.
Well, this movie also is set in the suburbs, kind of. It's like a very suburban film. And
yes,
really goes to show not everything is A-okay. And that feels like Lynchian as well, where you kind of get the sense of like the 1950s/80s normalcy.
Well, and there's like depictions
surrealism
of suburban spousal abuse.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like a classic Lynchian trope.
Mm-hmm.
It's like beautiful white picket fence and then blood drips down it. And it's like, oh shit. And that's like literally what happens in this fucking movie.
Is Big Lynchian?
Not in the slightest, no.
Okay. I thought you were going to try and make an argument for it.
I wish I could, because then it would be a similarity, but I can't. It's too like ignorantly wholesome.
Yes.
It's not self-aware in terms of like the underbelly, because even like Big in the first like 20 minutes is kind of disturbing because he's a kid as a man, but he's really scared and he checks into that hotel and the hotel's fucking scary and there's like people screaming and fighting outside. You know, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's kind of spooky. And you can tell that was like, you know, I'll get into it later. But anyways, there's some tonal stuff that's interesting. But anyways, continue.
So I have a couple more quotes. He says, "How many filmmakers are literally a one-man show like myself? More and more audiences are appreciating the fact that I do that, knowing how hard it is to make a frigging feature film that's in the theaters." I like how he said frigging. And then this is a great quote. "You can design a car." So he's talking about just the fact that some people don't like his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how he like justifies it in his brain. You can design a car and 50% of the people are going to say, "I love the car." 50% of the people are going to say, "I think it's an ugly car." What's the car designer supposed to do? Commit suicide? No, it's all part of the creative process. So suicide seems to be a recurring theme in his work where people are just like, "Oh no, this is bad." And then they shoot themselves. Life is instantly hard for me now. I have to shoot myself in the face.
Yeah. With this handgun, I was just holding the whole time in front of this green screen.
And it's the same one that everybody else has.
Yeah. I love it.
So anyway, that's all I got about Fateful Findings.
Nice. That was riveting. Let's get back on leash now. You know, we're not in the dog park anymore. We're just on a trail in the valley, on leash with our owners. Yeah, just had to paint that picture. That was great.
Thank you.
Man, what a wild fucking movie. I have to say, I'm not upset we're talking about it because it's just so curious.
I'm surprised it took us so long to do Breen.
Me too. Well, to be honest with you, I've never heard of him until yesterday.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, you're definitely more of a cinephile than I am. Or no, you're more of a bad movie guy than I am.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's kind of been in the periphery of my brain for however long. And I've always been aware of it and I've always wanted to see it, but also I've never been motivated to just like straight up track it down and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
This was indeed a magical day.
If we were making a living doing this, I would make us spend some of our budget on the DVD just so we could see what it looks like.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah, but this is pro bono, folks, so...
Yep.
You know, yeah, we do it for the love of it, not for the money.
Hey, if you want to send us money, we're not going to argue.
I guess put your walking collar on or
Jesus
your vest
Christ.
Or your booties because it's the middle of the winter, baby, and let's go for a walk.
Sure, yeah. Can't believe
so
this.
Rounding the first corner on this great walk, we're talking about the film Big from 1988.
Insane.
You need to sniff that fire hydrant. That's okay. Let me tell you about the director.
Oh, he's going to do this every little...
No, I'm gonna drop this bit right now. It's exhausting. I can't. How many walking details can you possibly muster?
Well, we gotta.
I found a piece of found a piece of poo-poo on the ground from another dog, you're probably going to eat it a little bit, aren't you? Anyways, okay, so Penny Marshall directed this film. It was written by Gary Ross and Ann Spielberg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of the film dynasty, Spielbergs?
I believe a wife.
Oh, really?
I think, well, fuck me. Let me look it up real quick. I honestly spent all my time on Penny Marshall because she's super interesting.
Oh, yeah. She's the sister of Stephen.
Oh, sister. Ooh, it'd be real awkward if they were husband and wife, too. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, so the sister of Steven Spielberg. Okay, so Big. Directed by Penny Marshall. Penny Marshall, very famous actor and director.
Yes.
She started acting in 1968. And then her last role was in 2016, and I believe she died in 2018.
Correct.
She directed some pretty big movies. Big, Awakenings, A League of Their Own, Renaissance Man with Danny DeVito, The Preacher's Wife, and Riding in Cars with Boys. Her big role came when she played a character on Happy Days that dated the main character of that show. I forget his name already. Whoops. But anyways, so she had a role on Odd Couple. Yeah, she dated... oh, fuck me. I gotta look this up.
Ron
I didn't
Howard?
write down the character.
Let's played Richie on Happy Days? Unless you're talking about the Fonz. You're definitely not talking about Ralph Mouth.
Oh, yeah. So she played Myrna in The Odd Couple.
Mm-hmm.
Myrna DeFazio. That got its own show called Laverne
and Shirley. Yeah.
And so that's like her most famous role.
Yes.
She was married to Rob Reiner for like a decade. Yeah, Laverne DeFazio. Who the hell's that? I've never seen this show. I don't know anything about Happy Days, but I know it's famous. So she was on Happy Days. She met Rob Reiner. They got married, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, Happy Days is like this weird kind of center point in the sitcom universe. Because
it seems like a pillar.
It spins off into other shows, or a lot of other shows are kind of revolving around it. Because Mork and Mindy with Robin Williams was a spin-off of Happy Days.
Was it?
Yeah. They did like an episode with him. He was Mork from Ork, so I guess he was an alien visiting Happy Days. I never actually watched those episodes. And then they spun that off to Mork and Mindy, where he's like an alien living on Earth. There's like a couple of sitcoms in the 80s about aliens. Shout out to Alf.
Oh, wait. I goofed this up. So, Penny Marshall played Myrna Turner on The Odd Couple. Mm-hmm. And that's where she met Rob Reiner.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, she got a role because of her brother was like a producer or something on Happy Days. She got a role of Laverne DeFazio, and then that got Laverne and Shirley. So she's like intrinsically tied with these like huge TV shows. I've never seen either of them. I don't know the premise. I didn't look this up. I should have.
She's also
a bad person.
She's also, her brother is Gary Marshall.
Yes, who's like a heavy hitter in the TV world.
So Gary Marshall was the one who was like the TV writer producer for Happy Days.
I believe so. He's also the one who gave her first role.
Mm-hmm.
In 1968. How sweet it is. She was a smaller character.
Yeah, and he directed most of your favorite films.
Did he?
Pretty Woman, Princess Diaries. Just like he did a whole bunch of rom-coms. He's like the rom-com director.
Oh, I gotta look him up. Why didn't I spend more time on him? Anyways, I guess it doesn't really matter. But Penny Marshall's a heavy hitter. She's had like a pretty crazy career, both as an actor and as a director.
Yeah.
I have no idea how she got into directing, but her friggin' directing shit. Let me just look this up real quick. So she directed Jumpin' Jack Flash, which I don't know what the fuck that is.
It's a gas.
Whoopi Goldberg, an American computer whiz who works at a New York bank, is suddenly thrust into the world of international espionage after she inadvertently receives a coded message from a British spy.
Sounds like Neil Breen film.
Honestly, it kind of does. But her thing was like family comedies.
Yes,
that's like her whole vibe. Kind of her whole filmography is very light and fluffy.
Yes,
just in terms of tone. But yeah, so basically the big films are Big, Awakenings, which is not a light and fluffy film, but also not too heavy. A League of Their Own, classic. Renaissance Man, Preacher's Wife, Riding in Cars with Boys. And then she did some TV. Her last thing was a thing called Rodman. It's the story of NBA Hall of Famer Dennis Rodman, told by Penny Marshall. It's a documentary. Who knew? What the hell? It came out in 2020. Oh, maybe it hasn't come out yet.
Oh, Renaissance Man was with Danny DeVito in the Army.
Yes, yeah, he's like an entrepreneur hired by the Army to get a bunch of recruits to pass basic training.
Yeah. I remember that movie.
Do you? I have never seen it.
Saw it on VHS.
Oh, okay. The Preacher's Wife, Denzel Washington, Whitney Houston.
Yeah, that's right.
An angel comes to earth to help a preacher save his church and his family. Oh, that's a remake of the David Niven film.
Yeah, also very Breen-esque.
Yeah, honestly, these two directors maybe have some similar intentionality. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then Riding in Cars with Boys, I believe I've seen. Yeah, Drew Barrymore. That's right. I've seen this movie. Kind of a coming-of-age story. Anyways. Cool. So yeah, she directed some crazy shit, but Big was like the titular big film that she directed to kind of kick off her directing career, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, way to go,
she also
Penny.
directed, oh, you know what? This makes sense. So on Laverne and Shirley, because she did it for so many years, she ended up directing a bunch of episodes.
There you go.
That's how you get started. You work in TV as an actor, and then you freaking get to direct some shit after.
Well, you spend so much time in front of the camera. It's just like you gotta be. You realize, oh, I've always wanted to work behind the camera.
Yeah, I want to tell people how to say these lines written by somebody else.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to tell the story. You find yourself an actor, and then you're like, I'm a storyteller.
Mike, I have another similarity.
Okay.
Neil Breen, Penny Marshall, both actor directors.
Oh yes, correct.
And producers. They both produced a lot of shit too that they also star in.
Also prone to sentimentality, I would say, in their films.
That's true. And both make sort of like maybe slightly too optimistic of films.
I guess so, yeah.
Because I'd say like even how Fateful Findings ends is sort of optimistic because of how quickly he's able to suss out corruption and have them face consequences.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. The system is rigged. Nobody gets in trouble when they have the power.
I know. Well, also
it's like common sense. It's
funny that his girlfriend, the girl that he was like reunited with at the beginning of the movie, she's like, you can't do this. You're going to get killed. Like they're going to come after you or whatever. And then as soon as he does it, as soon as he exposes the corruption, they all kill themselves. And it's like, well, she was wrong.
Yeah. Well, isn't she almost killed?
I don't remember that part.
Oh, they abduct her, remember?
Oh, yeah, they do abduct her, yeah. And
then he's like, I'm going to do something, but I can't tell you, but I'll tell you later. That made no sense. And then he just like disappears.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man. Again, very Lynchian. Have a character in the frame just dissolve poorly executed, and then come back. Very Lynchian.
All right. Well, tell us more about Big.
So some notes on Big. Oh, also, this was the first film directed by a woman to gross over $100 million at the box office.
Wow.
In 1988. So, I mean, other films had made that money, but, it's a misogynistic industry, and I feel like she was kind of a maverick in her time, just because she, like, made some massive movies, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so they here's a sort of some info on the production itself. They filmed so to help Tom Hanks with how to behave as a child, David Moscow, who plays the young Tom Hanks character, acted out every single adult scene.
Wow.
And then they filmed it. And then Tom Hanks watched it played back, and then he mimicked that behavior. They also rehearsed for like weeks to try to like get this like childish, boyish energy out of Tom Hanks.
Wow, that's interesting.
Which is interesting. So technically, from what I've read, so Mike, before we recorded this, he said, I know I'm researching Fateful Findings, but I found this article on Big, and it stated that the film was originally going to star Robert De Niro.
That's correct, yeah.
Now, there's conflicting literature on this, because some things say that it was originally Hanks, and then it went to De Niro, and then back to Hanks. But the script was almost 10 years old, and then nobody cared about it. And then De Niro read it and said, I want to be in this. I want to play the main character. And then all of a sudden, all the studios wanted to buy the script and make the movie. But then De Niro was too expensive because he was $6 million and Tom Hanks was less. So they switched to Tom Hanks, but then Tom Hanks was unavailable, so went back to De Niro. And then like De Niro had some scheduling conflicts, so then it went back to Tom Hanks, but he did it for $2 million, so they saved $4 million.
Yeah.
So there's like this really strange sort of like complicated scheduling history that maybe nobody cares about, but I'm just going to talk at length about both scheduling and just the price point, because De Niro is like 3 times the price of Tom Hanks.
Good to know.
But anecdotally speaking, according to the cast of Big, the tone when De Niro was on was way, way heavier because De Niro's not like, his funny isn't Tom Hanks's funny. Tom Hanks can be very playful and fun, whereas De Niro's very dry, sardonic, a little more witty.
When De Niro plays like what he's typecast as, when he plays against that a little bit, it's what's funny. Or when that is kind of put it into an absurd situation where, you know, like Meet the Parents or Analyze That. Those are just like, he's just playing what you expect him to do.
Yeah. So Elizabeth Perkins said when she auditioned, they had already cast Robert De Niro and she was reading opposite him for the audition. And she said the tone was super fucking weird and dark. And it's more like a horror movie than a family comedy. And then he left because he was too expensive, or there's some scheduling conflicts. Who knows? Tom Hanks came into the picture and the tone totally changed. But the script was never touched.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
It is wild to think of Robert De Niro playing that character for sure.
It would be, I'm going to say it right now, a terrible film.
It would be, yeah.
Like, just objectively, it wouldn't have worked. It would have been terrible.
Imagine the scene in the hotel where Tom Hanks's character is scared from the gunshots and the people speaking a non-English language. And he's just scared and starts crying because he's a kid.
Yeah, like that wouldn't work.
Imagine Robert De Niro doing that scene.
I don't want to because it's making me feel yucky.
Yes.
I hate it. So anyways, Tom Hanks got the gig. And it's a great film as a result. So the scene, so the famous Schwartz like store scene with the piano dance number with Tom Hanks and Robert Loggia? How the hell do you say that? I don't know.
I don't know how you say that, Robert Loggia.
Loggia. Feel free to DM us how to say that name because I don't have a fucking clue. But he plays Tom Hanks's boss. So there were 2 like stunt doubles who like knew the choreography, and they were there in case that they couldn't do the choreo. So they like fought really hard to like nail the dance number.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting.
I got a similarity between the 2 movies based on that.
Oh, hit me with it.
So in Fateful Findings, Neil Breen's character is always typing on a bunch of laptops. He has like 5 laptops going at once in his office. And the way that he types is like cartoonish. He's just like, it just looks like someone pretending to type on a keyboard.
That's right.
So both films feature characters dancing on keys in that, you know, in Big, they're literally dancing on a giant keyboard. And then in I would say Fateful Findings, the way that he types is like almost a dance, you know? It's like a well choreographed kind of like, there's a bit of an artfulness to it.
And also like an exaggerated absurdity. Like both of them are exaggerated. The fact that the keyboard is so big is exaggerated. And then how he types is exaggerated.
Well, also the fact that he has 5 laptops is exaggerated. Like, a laptop is exaggerated in that there are 5 of them.
Well, and both, I guess, have extra big keys in that if you put the 5 laptops together, because obviously he's using it as one sort of central computer system, 5 laptops wide is much bigger than your standard laptop.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
you need extra keys to hack. So yeah, lots of, just an abundance of keys also.
That's right. Also, I guess both films feature useless typing.
Yes, for sure.
Because Tom Hanks gets his like entry level like data entry job or whatever at this toy place. But like, what is he typing?
Well, but actually that's a great thing to bring up because it's established at the very, very beginning in the first like shot of the film that he's computer savvy.
Well, yeah, he's good at games.
Well, he's good at games, but that is kind of like the 1980s kind of logic of like, he's good at games, therefore he's good at computers. And when they show him working at the toy place for the first day, The guy's like, hey, you got to slow down because he's too good at it, because he's good at computers. And the same could be said for Neil Breen's character, is that he's a writer, but he's really a computer hacker. He's so good at computers.
Yeah. Well, that's great. These characters are almost the same.
Yeah. They both kind of have very vague, not clear jobs involving computers a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Anything else about Big?
Oh yes. So you know the scene where he eats the baby corn like a normal corn? Tom Hanks improvised that. And then there's baby corn, and he doesn't know what it is. He's never seen it before, so he eats it like a normal corn on the cob. It's quite funny, honestly. Great fucking bit.
That's a good bit.
He improvised that, made it in the movie. Pretty cool. Also, a huge portion of the robots turning into animals or insects or whatever scene was also improvised.
Oh, yeah.
And as a side note, I think they're called insectopods. Came out 3 years before the film was released. So the idea had already come to fruition and was like a major toy seller.
Yeah, and then Transformers later did Beast Wars or whatever, where dinosaurs turned into robots.
Well, Insectopods is part of the Transformers franchise as well.
Yeah.
Transformers really has the, like mechanical transformation toy business by the balls, hey?
Yeah.
Hanks won a Golden Globe and was nominated for Best Actor at the Academy Awards. Honestly, it's insane that this film was nominated for so many awards. It was also nominated for Best Screenplay at the Oscars.
Well, a lot of movies have been.
Yeah, sure. Also, I'd say this is sort of, this was part of the heyday of little kid and adult body exploitation.
Yes.
The late 80s, there were a bunch of films that came out in the late 80s that were sort of like age reversal films.
Yes.
Oh, here's another fact. So it's one of the very few films to have the F word in it and still hold a PG rating.
Yeah, that was wild.
The other films are Spaceballs, Caddyshack 2, and Beetlejuice. Or the latter two came in 1988, and Spaceballs was 1987.
Yeah, it was jarring hearing the kids say the F word.
Yeah, but
also a child saying the F word in a movie seems like it would be. You'd have to give it a higher rating because kids would see this movie and be like, "I'm going to say that."
Yeah.
Also, crazy that I saw this movie as a kid. Considering how horny the movie is.
Yes.
Like he gets with that older lady, and then also like she takes her shirt off. That just seems scandalous that I would have saw that as a child, because I would have saw this movie when it came out.
Well, you would have had one of those weird little kid boners, you know? They put it in there. They put it in there on purpose. They're like, "Oh, let's give these kids a show." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always deliberate because everyone's a pervert. Oh, here we go. So Big was part of a series of sort of age-changing films in the 80s. So Like Father, Like Son, 18 again, vice versa, 14 going on 30, and an Italian film called De Grande, which came out a year before, and apparently Big was inspired by.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, because it's called De Grande.
The Big in Italian.
The Big.
Anyways, that's more of a Borat than Italian, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So anyways, it's kind of cool that it's part of a exploitation subgenre.
I agree. Yeah,
I love that. Anytime I can, bring that up, it's great. The FAO Schwartz piano is also still around, and I saw it when I was in grade 10.
Yeah, I saw it too. That must be so annoying to work there now.
Oh yeah, I think the movie ruined working at FAO Schwartz.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think, a good thought exercise is to just think of the film with De Niro. Oh, what would be really cool is a deep fake with De Niro's face.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So that the performance is still Hanks's, but it's like with De Niro's face. That would be kind of a fun thing to watch. I would watch that.
So yeah, let's chat about the similarities between both of these films.
Great.
Just thrilled.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I cranked a few out while we were chatting. But...
What does that mean, you cranked a few out?
Like a few similarities.
Oh, you
like I started rattling off the list.
Oh, I see. Okay, I was just
not like something
I don't
gross.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember that. We can see each other.
What did you crank out? You
what
dirty
did you
perv?
crank out? You dirty perv.
I guess.
Well, first thing I can discuss, just going off of what we just discussed, there's like a horniness throughout both films, which I kind of brought up.
Yeah,
there's a certain perversion to both films. Like Fateful Findings, he's always kind of getting with young women in it. And
can I yes and that?
Both
films attempt to be wholesome, but are actually they have a really nasty underbelly.
That's correct.
And it's like hypersexual and deeply inappropriate. And there's a massive sort of age gap thing going on in both films because of that girl in the swimming pool undressing in front of Neil, and then Tom Hanks boning a lady in her 30s.
Yes. Yeah. And that, I think, it tries to be kind of moralizing, but there's like a kind of horniness to it. And the darkness, I think they both kind of explore the darkness of the real world in a simple way.
Well, even think about the scene. Like, it's so fucked up when he comes downstairs after turning big, and the mom is like, "Oh my God, like, you're in my kid's underwear. What the fuck? Who are you? You're like some fucked up pervert. You're going to abduct my kid, blah, blah, blah."
Well, she I think she says something like, "Get away from me," or like, don't. Basically, she suggests like that he may sexually assault her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, absolutely.
I mean, kudos to the movie for going the realistic route as much as it possibly could.
But that's such a, like, tonally, that's such a fine line to walk.
I know, yeah. I don't know that it really, watching it now, it feels like the realism in the film, given, how fantastical it is, just how they try and treat this fantastical idea so realistically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does kind of seem like everything is just way darker than was ever intended. For whatever reason, in the 80s, this was just like a whimsical film.
Yeah, it's very confusing and weird.
Well, I think also when you play that score over top of it, like that doop 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 doop, like that kind of 80s like whimsy, that's in rom-coms, when that's kind of playing in the background as a woman is encountering a man in her child's underwear and screaming to not be sexually assaulted by him. It kind of just like changes the vibe of the scene enough that audiences are like, this is funny to me.
Right. Dare I say, that's a Lynchian scenario you just described.
Well, probably, yeah. There you go.
So Big is bada bing, bada boom. Both films have very sort of Lynchian tonality in them. And he could honestly put his name on both of these films and people would be like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Some minor adjustments. Hyper Lynchian films.
Yes,
both films have inexplicable magic.
I know, yes.
And they make no fucking sense. And the devices used make no sense. Like the little box underneath the leaves. Like what even was that?
I know. Well, it was indeed a fateful finding.
Oh, I was going to say another Lynchian thing is the black tarp room when he's naked.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
I know, yes, I know. Well, it's supposed to be black, like a black void.
Yeah,
but I think it was
so
just
Lynchian. It's like the red curtain room.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very surreal, yeah. That thing that they kept cutting back to. So it's like Neil Breen isn't as terrible as we all like to think he is, because he has instincts like that where there's like a certain, thought going into it, and I don't know, it just feels like he's trying to explore something. He's failing at it because he's just garbage bags.
Yeah. Also, isn't there a literal fucking scene where they go inside of a cube in Mulholland Drive?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same shit, but it came out like 10 years before. Man, yeah. I bet you he loves David Lynch. Or he doesn't. It would be really funny if he's never heard of David Lynch. That would be fucking crazy. And they have like this deeply shared cinematic DNA. But anyways, yeah, inexplicable magic.
Well, yeah. And I mean, Big is in a way a body horror film, regardless of how whimsical it is. It is kind of body horror. They don't really explore it enough as they could, but he does like awaken and is just like confused by how large his body is and all of the things on it, the hair and whatnot.
A bigger peener.
Bigger peener, yeah. I knew that you were going to say that.
How did you know? How did you know?
I mean, it is indeed a fateful finding that they find the wish machine in Big, and that they find it again.
That's true.
Also, I guess at the end of Big, when his teenage friend does all of that like paperwork and tracks down where the machine is from, like there's this undercurrent of bureaucracy kind of just going on in the background of Big while all of this whimsical stuff is happening.
Yeah.
So the kid goes and fills out some forms so that they can find where this machine is somehow. Yeah, I just found that kind of like a weird, fascinating kind of turn where it's like bureaucracy kind of saves the day in this movie. That's kind of whimsical. Like I guess it's set in the adult world, so bureaucracy is a big part of that. But also, I guess by that token, Fateful Findings, bureaucracy is ever present as well, to the point where Breen rebels against it via his rant and gets everybody to shoot themselves in the face.
Yeah.
So bureaucracy comes to some sort of head at the end of both films.
Yeah. Well, like both films sort of have a depiction and have a stance on like corporate corruption.
Yes.
Because like the one guy at the toy place is all about money.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas Tom Hanks's character is all about play.
Yeah.
That loathed word I hate so much. Play and playing.
Yeah,
also, a little too much playing in this movie. Can
a little bit
that?
Too much.
I'll say that. A little too much playing. But yeah, it's just like corporate corruption is sort of the antagonist of both films.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a horrific suicide in both films as a result.
You say there's suicide in both films?
I said a horrific suicide.
What happens in Big?
I'm joking. There's no suicide. I just like to say that things are there that aren't. You know what I mean?
I got to say, there's a darkness in Big once again, because in order for the film to justify how he's kind of gone off and is living in an apartment by himself with a trampoline and all that, his family is convinced that he is dead or kidnapped.
Yes.
And so his mom is going basically through a horror film throughout the film.
Which they really sort of conveniently ignore.
They ignore it, probably to the film's benefit, because otherwise it would be a much sadder, darker film.
Well, how fucked up is it when he phones her and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's okay, he's fine," and it's like, "Oh my god, this Tom Hanks character is like a fucking like pedophile abductor in the eyes of the family."
Yeah.
Oh man, again, walking such a fine line.
Yeah, I wonder if it was. I'm trying to track in my mind the timeline of this movie and like kind of the American hysteria of like stranger danger. I feel like that was a 90s thing.
I think it
being
was
kidnapped, because I feel like this movie was probably pre-kidnapping scare. I mean, obviously kids were being kidnapped throughout all of humanity, but I feel like this movie kind of predated just the hysteria that kind of cable news brought forward about just everybody being, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? That must have been in the 80s. I don't know.
I don't know either. That'd be interesting to think about and look up.
Do you know that catchphrase though? Is 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? Have you heard that?
No, I've never heard of that. No.
That's like a thing. That's just like a
slogan.
It's like a thing that they said on the news. Like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
What an arbitrary time.
Well, it's because of the 10 o'clock news.
Oh, right.
And they would say that on the news.
Staying up till 10?
It's a PSA, I guess. It's a public service announcement that was used through the 60s through the late 80s. So this movie did not. So there was kind of like a kidnapping scare going on throughout the entire history of television, really. So once the news kind of came about, then
once live TV came to fruition, the late 1950s onward.
Yeah, then kids were scared, or parents were scared about where their kids were. So yeah, crazy. Anyway,
but only at 10 onward. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Weird, man. That's fucking weird.
But anyway, so in Big, you have this dark undercurrent of just the mom being scared that her child is dead or kidnapped. And in Fateful Findings, Neil Breen's character is hit by a car at the very beginning in the first scene, and then everybody thinks he's dead for a while. Mm-hmm. And then when he finally comes to from his coma, he's a ghost sometimes, or he can like go into the ghost world.
One could argue that, he was given sort of like godly powers by God, and he brought him back to life because he had to be on the surface of the earth to like do some mystical shit. You could really like tie in this like that he's Jesus. I think you really could do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, he dies and then comes back, so he is Jesus-esque.
Quite literally comes, he rises again.
Well, also the rock that he finds in that box in the forest when he's a kid, that must have been the thing that gives him magical powers, and maybe he didn't die because he found that rock. And so when he got hit by a car, it should have killed him, but it didn't because he's magical now.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's why it's so good.
That's why it's so good. Oh my God.
Also,
you know, when you make a car, 50% of people love it and 50% of people hate it. But what are you going to do? Kill yourself? That's art, man. Or whatever the fucking quote is.
That's great.
Yeah, fuck, that's funny. I guess, no, maybe this isn't true. Do both films end with characters learning something?
No, I don't think. I think Neil Breen's characters never learn anything because they know everything going into it. I think he's of that kind of weird egocentric indie film.
You know what? So both main characters don't learn anything. The characters around them do, but they don't. Because I'd say like the Tom Hanks character is just still a little boy. Sure, maybe he learns like how to pay for rent and stuff, but he doesn't change really.
No, he doesn't really. I don't think he really comes away from any of that with anything. I don't think. Yeah, you're right. He just kind of is like, I'm a teen again.
And Neil Breen is like, I am God.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, interesting.
Also, both movies, they begin and end the film as children, the main character.
That's right.
Because the first shot of both films, the character is a child. Mm-hmm. At the end and the beginning. So there you go. A palindrome.
Yeah, cinematic palindrome.
Yes.
Both films involve a lot of talking on the phone.
It's true. A lot of problems are solved over the phone.
Yes. Very auditory medium displayed visually in a film.
Yeah. It's also hilarious. I mean, it's always fun to watch these bad movies and then just point out all the dumb scenes.
Which we try to not do, but it's
but it's also really hard because it's so fun. And
yeah,
one of the best ones at the beginning of Fateful Findings is he's on a phone call with somebody, and it only ever shows the woman talking, and then when it cuts back to him, he's just walking and not talking, and then it cuts back to her, and she's still having the conversation, and so they choose not to show what he is saying, even though they are cutting back to him. Yeah, that's so wild.
Again, very Lynchian detail.
Very super Lynchian for sure.
Yeah, whole opening, the opening 6 minutes, I was like, did David Lynch make this? Like, this feels like a Lynch film. Like, what the fuck is going on?
That is why Neil Breen is an artiste. Say what you will, he's still an artist, I mean, you might not like it, but what's he going to do? Kill himself?
Bang. In front of a green screen.
Well, both characters are transformed via a magical token.
Yes.
And the slogan for the film is "It's a magical day," because remember she has that notebook that she writes "It's a magical day" once they find that token. But they find that magical rock in the box. Then the little girl writes "It's a magical day" in the notebook. And then by coincidence she drops that same notebook that she carries as an adult for some reason with the word "It's a magical day" in it.
Dude, just
and that's
as
how
a
he
side
finds
note,
out.
How fucking jam-packed her fucking pocket was insane. That made no sense. Oh my God. You got like a flip phone and like a 3-inch by 6-inch notepad inside of a woman's tight jean, like early aughts, low-cut pocket.
And
what the hell?
And that notebook only has one page with something written on it that she's kept for her whole life.
Yeah. In a way, I guess like both films have characters that will keep something their whole life. For her, it's a notepad. For Tom Hanks's character, it's the memory that he was 30 once when he was 13.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Pretty neat.
I was going to say both films, the beginning is a magical day. Because you could say that the theme, "It's a magical day" is, you could say the theme of Fateful Findings, "It's a magical day" is also the theme of Big. Because it is a magical day.
So the slogan of Big is, "Do you have a big secret?"
Yes.
And both films involve a big secret.
Totally big secret.
Because Neil Breen's character is like God or some shit throughout and like all magical and shit. And Tom Hanks is like, I'm secretly a little boy.
Yes.
In a man's body having sex with a woman.
Neil Breen's character is a magical character. Like he's mystical in some way. But then he also is an expert at technology. And I guess you could say like both films kind of explore the intersection of magic and technology because Tom Hanks's character is obviously good with computers and he's turned big by magic. And he designs like a comic book that's like also a computer, right?
Yeah.
So it is kind of the intersection of magic and technology that kind of make things happen in the film. Wow.
Another similarity is both films sort of portray the unbelievable American dream, which is that you rise to success very quickly by virtue of falling ass backwards into it.
Yes.
Because he's a quote-unquote author, but also a hacker, and he has a book out, and he won't write another book. He won't do it. He won't write another book.
No.
He won't write another book. That scene was fucking crazy.
And he throws his books around?
He throws 3 books, and he keeps saying, I won't do it. I won't write you another book. I won't write you a book. There won't be another book. And it's like, oh, geez. It's ironic because he wrote those lines, and they're shitty. They're shitty lines. And then Tom Hanks, as a literal boy, somehow becomes one of the highest power people in this massive corporation.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's sort of this like very unrealistic display of the American dream in reaching great success.
Which Tom Hanks, I think, later explores in Forrest Gump, where he's a character who falls ass backwards, upwards.
Similarly, Tom Hanks had the little kid who plays young Forrest was filmed, and he watched that playback to mimic the accent and the physicality.
Are you serious?
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, he used the same acting method for both films, and in both films, he plays just sort of like a shitty character who gets all this stuff handed to him.
Well, he's kind of an adult child in many ways in both films.
He is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've already pointed out Neil Breen is kind of an adult child in these films because he kind of has a childlike view of how the world works.
Mm-hmm. Both films sort of are examples of a director working with the same actor multiple times. So Neil Breen works with himself every time.
Yes.
And you can tell that Penny Marshall sort of has a particular taste in actors because she wanted De Niro. She ended up working with De Niro on her next film, Awakenings.
That's right.
And then the film after that, Tom Hanks as the coach in A League of Their Own.
That's right. Yeah.
And she directed all 3 of those movies. Where Neil Breen is constantly casting himself because he's an artist. And even if people don't like it, what's he going to do? Kill himself?
Yes.
Come on. He's a real he's a friggin' filmmaker. You know how friggin' hard it is to make a feature film?
Yeah,
it's so friggin' hard.
It is friggin' hard.
It's the titular friggin' hard.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. It doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
I mean, both films have characters who have girl problems. Mm-hmm. Tom Hanks, the character, I mean, he's 13 and he's a 30-year-old woman falls in love with him, and then like that's a problem. Plus, also he can't get with like the teenager he wants to get with when he's a teen because he's too tiny. He's not big.
Yeah.
And then in Fateful Findings, every character kind of has a whole movie kind of happening with them. There's characters that Neil Breen's character interacts with who are not really specified what his relationship to them are or why they're in the movie. And sometimes you get these stories where they're just fighting a lot, but you don't know who they are or what they're bringing to the movie. They have nothing to do with Neil Breen's character, really. They're just friends, I guess. Mm-hmm. So he has all of these characters who are having fights with each other. And why, I guess, why are we being shown this? But that happens in Tommy Wiseau's movies too, where you just have these like background conflicts that are constantly going on that are not resolved and that bring nothing to the film, but just so that other characters can be in the movie. Yeah, what's up with that?
What's up with that? Also, like, maybe, that's in Big because, what's her name? Elizabeth Perkins? Mm-hmm. She's dating that douchey guy, and they're constantly sort of bickering as Tom Hanks is climbing the corporate ladder, and then she leaves him for Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's in both films, Wow. That's right. That's great, man. They're the same fucking movie.
I know,
let's
totally.
just say that right now.
Totally.
Same damn film.
Totally. Anything else? You got anything else?
You brought this up earlier, but both films are body horror.
Yes, for sure.
Which I think you already said, but I just want to really impress upon
I didn't say that, but I didn't say that Neil Breen's film was body horror.
But it is, because he's hit by a car, covered in blood, has sex with his wife in the shower, covered in blood.
You're right.
While he still has his thing on. It's very Cronenberg, very Lynchian, very Cronenberg, and Big. He's is all big and scary and stuff. And I'd say New York is like the embodiment of body horror as a city.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's good. And Las Vegas in some ways is as well.
Yes.
And because also in Big, New York was in it, and New York was the 5th character, I think.
I believe so. And Las Vegas was the 5th character.
Yeah, also
in Fateful Findings.
Yeah. Supposedly because he lives in Las Vegas and makes his movies there. A lot of Neil Breen's films feature the desert. This was one of the rare films where he doesn't go into the desert for some sort of weird neo-mystical kind of like nonsense.
Go in the desert to drive his car.
Oh,
There's
really?
a driving scene in the desert.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, so even that, it's a little more subtle, subdued, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. We did find that these two films were the same. And it was fun to talk about Neil Breen for a change. Because we hadn't explored his films. And I mean, he's got 4 other ones, an upcoming 6th film as well. So
we're real Breenophiles now, I think. We're filled to the Breen.
Would you watch another one?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like right away?
No, give me 2 weeks.
Out of interest? Would you just like watch it, put it on not for the podcast?
No, it's got to be for the podcast.
Oh, okay, wow.
I'm not watching, I'm watching some hot trash, but very specific hot trash voluntarily, but it's got to be for the pod. Yeah, okay, I need an external motivator, because life's for living.
Also, this might be showing our cards a little bit too much, but we did both watch it like on a downloaded file, and I watched it at 1.3 speed.
I watched it at 1.5.
Yeah.
So the dialogue was kind of fucked up, but the physicality was normal speed.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's a wild experience watching it at a higher speed, because when you watch it at 1.3 speed, it feels like a normal movie, but it's much shorter than the intended length.
Yes.
Because I would occasionally go back to regular speed, and it was like the pacing is so slow in this movie. It's like insane how like a camera will tilt down from like the top of a tree down to where the characters are, and it'll take like 30 to 40 seconds. So you see mostly tree for so long. Very Lynchian.
Okay. Exaggerated time expansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a Lynchian trait.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fascinating because in the documentary, no, not the documentary. He doesn't want it to be called a documentary. The masterclass thing that he does.
Watch him sue us because you called it a fucking documentary, man. Oh, we don't have the legal fees to take care of that, man. Come on.
Supposedly he cracks down on YouTubers.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But there's a couple of videos.
He's one of those filmmakers.
Well, there's a couple of videos on there that are still up where they rip on his film, and he doesn't take those down. Maybe because the views are so high that he's getting a lot of like fans from it. Now, in his masterclass, he does talk about, I read an article where someone summarized it. They're like, I watched this 5-hour thing, and they summarize like, how ironic that the aesthetics of this masterclass are just so poor when he's giving you instruction on how to make a high quality film. But the other thing is that one of Neil Breen's big points is that when you're watching a movie, you should know how time passes in the film. You should think about the fourth dimension when you're making a movie. So you should think about like when you're watching a movie, how much time is taking place. You shouldn't spell it out. The audience should just be able to know. And I think that is actually probably a pretty good tip, because when you're watching movies, sometimes you know how much time is passing in the film, and sometimes they don't really telegraph that at all. I think Big, what takes place over the course of a week, or is it
6
months?
weeks?
6 weeks. Oh, it is
6 weeks because it takes 6 weeks to get that thing back.
Yeah, that'll
tell them where Zoltar is.
Yeah, so they do tell you in the movie, and it does make sense. But at the same time, you kind of don't know how much time is passing in the film for like a chunk of it. And I think in Neil Breen's movies, I think you kind of know this kind of happens over the course of a week.
I have no fucking clue, man.
Yeah.
It's ironic. I would say that film could have taken place over one day.
Yeah. But I guess it's just kind of funny that he talks about you should be thinking about the fourth dimension and how you illustrate how time passes in the film. But then when you watch his movie, the pacing is just so slow, and he has no sense of just how to pace a movie.
I'd also say sometimes it doesn't matter about the time.
No?
I think some films don't need you to understand how long it's taken to do something or get somewhere. Good example of that, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Did you just think of a movie? You didn't even consider what you're actually saying? It looked like you were just trying to think of any movie.
I think Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is like overtly in one afternoon. Like literally 3 hours, because the tide comes in. Actually, they do a great job of telling you how long it took in the fantasy world. That's a terrible example. What about Das Boot? How long were they gone? No, maybe months.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
They probably spell it out with like a calendar. Okay, how about this?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a great example because they illustrate how much time is passing, and the audience knows without them having to say, this is how much time is passing. They don't tell you this is all in an afternoon. They just kind of give you some sort of visual thing. So I think...
But it's a bad example because I'm saying you can tell a story without needing to at all address how long it took.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Neil Breen is saying.
How about this? Drive. You don't know, like, did it take place over a month or 1 week? Boom.
Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
That. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, there are some movies, it just doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess Fateful Findings is one of those.
Even though he's like a big proponent of like time is important. The fourth dimension is important. I thought the fourth dimension was smell. But what do I know?
Yeah. I think that's the fourth sense.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's weird how the sixth sense is another version of seeing, you know?
Yeah, in a way, it's
like
just...
It's like 5.5, you could say.
Not even. Less. 5.2?
Yeah, 5.2, yeah.
It's 20% extra, because everything's real except for, like, and then plus a ghost.
Yeah.
It's not like he can see smells.
No, he can't.
Yeah, like, you know how, like,
ghosts.
There's, like, aliens that can see temperature?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's way fucking cooler than, like, I can just literally see a ghost with my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Can't smell the ghost. Can't taste the ghost. Can't taste the rainbow. Anyways, that's a Skittles reference for all y'all out there.
It's the official candy from Justin DeCane.
Official candy. So the official drink, Faygo. And official candy, Skittles. We're featured by, oh my God, Mike just pulled up a cola. Faygo Cola.
Of course, it's the official drink.
Man, God bless. You know, they send us a flat every month, and we just lap it up with our tongues, you know, like a dog in a dog dish. Put it in a bowl.
Yeah, put it in a metal bowl outside of a restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah.
So specific.
Oh, yeah. You gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The Sixth Sense is a stupid title.
The fifth and a bit sense is what it should have been called.
Yeah, well, the 5.2 sense, but that doesn't make any sense. But that would be confusing. It's like, what does this mean? The 5.2 sense is like, how? Dude, how do you?
Know what the twist is in the 5 and the 2nd sense is? What? Yeah, it's a huge twist. You can see and see dead people.
Yeah,
not just see dead people. You can see. Also, spoiler alert. Sorry, gave that one away. But you're fucking 30 years late, so get over it.
Yeah, I guess if it was called the 5.2 sense, people would be spoiled because they'd be like, well, what are the 5 senses? And be like, okay, so there's got to be an addition to the 5th sense, which is that you can see something else. Or what else could you see? Yeah, the only logical thing is dead people.
So are the senses in a specific order?
I assume that they are. I haven't read a biology textbook in a long time.
I've never read a biology textbook. I am illiterate, and I don't know how to read, but I don't know. Is it a specific list, or is it just whatever you want?
I don't know.
You got touch, smell, looking.
Yeah, the real sixth sense would have been like sensing that dead people are around, but not actually being able to see them.
Like goose pimples.
Yeah, but that's feeling, so that's another sense.
Fuck.
And then if you smelled like a rotten egg smell when dead people are around, you're like, oh no, there's a dead person. It's like, that's still a smell. So that'd be the 4.2 sense. Right?
I guess the issue is there are only 5 senses. Like what like we're describing something so abstract, I don't even think we can fathom it. You know what I mean? Like a sixth sense is unfathomable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, M. Night just made the Sixth Sense what it was because that's the easiest way to kind of explain what's going on.
But it's so reductive.
I know, but in a visual medium, like that is the most effective way to convey, dead people are around. So it's like, of course you can see them, but it is, he did make a mistake because it is, just an additional version of the being able to see. So it's not a sixth sense. It would be, 5.2 sense. Or something stupid like that.
So it's interesting you bring that up. Why Ratatouille is so amazing is it takes a visual medium and it addresses every single sense except for sight, basically, and represents it well.
Yes.
It represents smell and taste visually.
What about
isn't that?
What about
and
touch?
you can like you can taste Ratatouille, or you can taste like whatever the fuck they're making by the visual sort of things, stimuli, whatever. Which is kind of neat. But yeah, anyways, I guess M. Night sucks. Neil Breen rocks, and Tom Hanks is a pervert. Well, are those the 3 takeaways?
M. Night makes movies that are Breen-esque at times.
He does, absolutely.
I haven't seen the Old People Beach, but it feels like
what?
Old, the new M. Night movie.
Oh, that's an M. Night movie?
Yeah, where you go to the beach.
Oh my god, I had no fucking clue. Oh.
Yeah.
Why? What's the premise? I don't understand how
you go to the beach and the beach makes you old. You just age faster at the beach.
What? How is that a dramatic premise?
It's a horror premise. Just that you're accelerating through your age and then you eventually die quicker.
But why do they go to the beach?
Because I just want to go to the beach.
How quickly are they aging?
I guess I haven't seen it, but I assume they just get old fast.
And then if they were to leave the beach, they're still aging too fast?
Yeah. So this is a preposterous premise to you, but then you said Big was a great film. And it's about a person who talks to like essentially a claw machine and gets and ages, 20 years. And then you're like, this is good. I like this. And also a grown woman falls in love with a teenager brain.
I stand by it. Fuck you,
okay,
Mike.
Whatever.
Old sounds stupid. Big is great, except that it is aging in a very fascinating, oftentimes disastrous way.
Right. And
disturbing at times.
Both explore the fourth dimension.
Sight.
As Breen asks us to.
Yeah. The fourth dimension. Seeing a calendar transpire.
Well, this feels over? Question mark.
Hey, I'm not done yet. Just kidding. I am. It's over.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
wrap this puppy up.
So thanks for listening from Justin Kane, everybody. This has been another great episode. Follow us on social media from Justin 2 Kane with the number 2. Send us an email, why don't you? At from Justin 2 Kane, all the words, no numbers in there, at gmail.com.
Was from Justin to Kane without the 2 taken on Instagram?
No, it was
too long.
One of the things, I think it was Twitter. We've talked about this already, but I think one of the things Twitter or Letterboxd didn't let you have a certain amount of letters.
Oh,
so so it was like one letter too much to have the TO. So the number 2 worked. So that was why I just kind of was like made it uniform across all of them.
Right. Except for our Gmail.
Except for our Gmail, which is from Justin 2 Kane, all words, at gmail.com. So send us an email.
Was from Justin 2 Kane with the number 2 taken?
I assume not. No. I think that our title is very unique in that why would anybody call anything this unless it referenced those 2 movies, which is what our first podcast did.
Imagine your work email is from Justin 2 Kane and you have to tell people that. They're like, hey, I just need to email you this information. And you're like, oh, yeah, sure. My email is from Justin 2 Kane. And they're like, excuse me? What the fuck does that mean? And you're like, think about it. And you just walk away.
Yeah.
And they never think about it.
They don't think about it. But they know deep down that it's about those 2 movies.
Because they're huge American Idol fans. And they love cinema.
Yes. I think the big thing standing in the way of people that you interact with on the street, when you talk to them about our podcast in real life, and sometimes people don't know what the hell we were talking about when you tell them the title, but then some people really do. And it entirely hinges on whether or not they know that there was a movie called From Justin to Kelly that came out in 2003.
I have 2 reactions. I tell people and they're like, what? Or I tell people and they're like, I remember that movie. I remember when it came out. It's so bad. And it's like, exactly. You fucking get it. It's really polarizing.
Yeah. But this podcast, it doesn't matter if you don't understand the title the first time you hear it. Once you listen to our first episode or any of the episodes, you get it because the premise is clear. We explained it right in the first 30 seconds of the episode. And it's literally on all of the websites that we have.
That's true. We do really.
We drill it home
hard on the head. Yeah. Drill it home. That's a good.
And then
phrase.
We do spend almost an hour and a half just talking about 2 movies and talking about how they're the same for some reason.
Yeah.
But But it makes it so that we can talk about 2 different movies. We can explore good movies and bad movies whenever we want.
Great. Well, you've already said it. It feels over. I think people have already stopped listening. If you're still listening, don't.
Yeah, stop now.
Go do something productive. Make dinner. I don't know.
Get the hell out of here.
Get the hell out of here. Go for a walk. Thanks for listening, everyone. That being said. And we'll catch you on the flip-flop. Have a great walk. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you get some treats this week. Little doggy, get some milk bones.
Yeah.
And we'll see you. We'll see you next week. Maybe, you know what? We'll see you at the dog park next weekend. How about that?
See you at the dog park, canines.
Yeah. Keep on barking.
Keep on barking. Bye.
Goodbye.